Can you escape reality? Is there a door to peek at what happens behind the scenery that surrounds us? Are we living in a simulation? We're going to dive into these questions in this video, into this one and many others. All questions that began to haunt new and old generations after a terrible nightmare took shape on the internet. At first, forums served as a new place for the typical urban legends we've known all our lives to spread and circulate. However, it's been a while since the virtual world started to have its own legends native to the web. Slenderman is the most notable example, created in 2009 after a grainy photo showed him behind his manager. And just that shadow was enough for the myth to devour reality. Everything got particularly dark when two 12-year-old girls who said they wanted to worship the character stabbed a classmate 19 times. From that day until now, the internet has been the cradle of many mysterious stories, but there is one in particular that keeps gaining strength. Maybe because, in some way, it contains within itself various factors, but ones that represent modernity. Nostalgia for lost times, fear of the enormity, the idea that our world is not the only one, and the dreadful certainty that we're part of a worthy cosmic horror tale. Whether you are welcome or not to the story of the Backrooms, before we begin, I would like to know if you already know the story of the Backrooms. How did you hear about it? How did you discover this internet legend? I want to read your comments below and hear your thoughts on it. I invite you to write that and suggest ideas for future videos. This horror story begins on April 21, 2019. That day, an anonymous 4chan user posted a photo in a thread about cursed images. For those who don't know, 4chan is a forum, but not just any forum, it's a forum connected to subcultures and activism on the internet. 4chan users have been responsible for creating and popularizing various memes that everyone knows. The project's founder was named Time magazine's most influential person in 2008. So it's clear to us that a lot of what happens on 4chan has the potential to become something huge, if it gets the necessary attention. However, the photo we're talking about, a photo showing a hallway with yellowed wallpaper that branched off, didn't cause much of a stir in the community. Things would soon start to change. Less than a month later, more precisely on May 12, 2019, another anonymous user on the forum used the photo again, this time not as a comment, but to start a thread. Underneath, he wrote a brief text inviting other users to post images of unsettling places that cause discomfort. Even if at first glance they didn't seem strange, this time the image gained more relevance. The post sparked debates, and many agreed that those empty hallways really gave a certain sense of unease. Then, a user unexpectedly finished the sequence, and instead of sharing their opinion, what they did was write the following. If you're not careful and you slip out of reality in the wrong areas, you'll end up in the backrooms, where there's nothing but the stench of old damp carpet, the madness of yellow wallpaper, the endless background noise of fluorescent lights at maximum buzz, and about 600 million square miles of empty rooms randomly segmented in which to get trapped. And that's not all. The last line was, for some, the worst. God help you if you hear something wandering nearby, because for sure that something has heard you. Why had that user written that? Even more, what were the backrooms? 2 days later, the final blow arrived for the birth of the most famous creepypasta of today. An anonymous user posted by directly combining the image and text. Within hours, many people started sharing it, and there was no turning back. The hallways began to feel endless. At that moment, most users couldn't help but admit that the combined image and text gave them a bad vibe. So many others started to say that at some point they had felt like they were in a place like that. A third group claimed to have been there in their dreams. What was that place? Which literally translates as the backrooms? How could someone slip out of reality in the wrong areas? So many questions quickly led to speculation. The new Slender Man began to stretch out his tentacles this way. More opinions, more photos of similar places, more stories that gave that strange world a shape, an even stranger shape. Of course, by the end of May 2019, the Backrooms were already a whisper on websites specialized in cursed internet stories. Today, 3 years later, they are widely searched for every day, and every minute their mythology grows and expands. There is talk of various levels of the Backrooms and even of the creatures that can be found there. The line between reality and fiction is blurry. There are even tips for those who want to try to cross the door that separates our ordinary world from the Backrooms. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Before we get into those matters, let's see what we can find in these mysterious places. The Backrooms have also been associated with the concept of kenopsia, first coined in the Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows. Like the overwhelming sad atmosphere of a place that is usually full of people, but is now abandoned and quiet. The feeling would also be linked to feeling disoriented, since you usually see the B-side of a place. When you walk through it in an unusual situation, getting lost is the unusual situation par excellence. Who hasn't gotten lost at some point and ended up walking through the back of a place among moldy hallways and leaks? A large group of people who are attracted to the Backrooms understand, in these rational and simple explanations, the potential of the whole concept. They know that this is where that deep and sometimes frightening anxiety comes from, the kind that hits when you see a picture of neglected and endless hallways. For them, getting lost in those labyrinths would be terrible enough. And they usually understand the Backrooms as a universe that can expand infinitely, but isn't specifically divided into levels. Nor does it possess life in itself. They see in the loneliness of the original images all the condensation of how creepy the whole thing can be. However, other people have gathered experiences and approaches from others to build more comprehensive worldviews and, above all, much stranger ones. While the Backrooms wiki lists thousands of levels, the urban legend canonically has only 3. Let's look at them one by one. Level 0 is the level shown in the original Backrooms photo. It features all the most well-known characteristics of this creepypasta: the damp carpet, monochromatic yellow walls, and buzzing fluorescent lights. Another feature of this level is that it can lead someone back to reality. You could be transported to the beginning of the level or to a new dimension with other hostile beings. In some places, it is described as a level entirely foreign to any form of life. Others claim that in this level there are creatures known as hounds, described as deformed and maniacal humanoid beings. It's said if many people entered simultaneously, they'd instantly appear at separate points on the map. So being alone seems to be another characteristic of this level. If someone wanders around level 0 for days and doesn't fall into another trap or shortcut, they can reach level 1. Level 1 is darker than level 0 and has a more industrial architecture, with mechanical sounds that can be heard throughout the place, creating echoes and resulting paranoia. The level looks like a dark, gloomy warehouse from a noir film with low fog and puddles of water around. In this place, the lights not only flicker intermittently, but they can also go out completely and abruptly. The consequences of this? Nothing good happens. When the lights go out, the beings appear. And that means only one thing. Are you doomed? It can also happen that chance takes you to level 2, a place where unfortunately you would also be doomed. Level 2's walls are lined with pipes. The indecipherable sounds double, the temperature rises, just like the feeling of humidity and suffocation. It's to be expected that one would sweat in that heavy and sometimes suffocating environment. Survivors of level 2 who returned to other levels gave vague descriptions of their experience. They only suggest that you stay calm. The way to escape the Backrooms is by assuming that it's going to be your home forever. The creatures that appear around there are more likely to sneak through the shadows, and they are relentless. Level 2 gives them more security since they feel more comfortable there. On this level, the creatures often play with the traveler, knowing they have control. They usually have fun, giving their prey the illusion that they will be able to escape. The Backrooms, described in 3 levels, quickly changed. Someone soon mentioned sub-levels or particular rooms that can appear in the levels if you search carefully. Another one, he mentioned that there are even bridges that can take you to other alternate levels that in turn would lead to other levels, and so to infinity. This is what's known as the extended version of the Backrooms. And if up to this point you thought it was even a little bit scary, let me tell you, I haven't told you anything yet. The expanded Backrooms assumes the levels are infinite and continuously researched and created. This version presents the Backrooms as part of a less rigid and more living system in itself. With levels that unfold and twist, there would no longer be just shortcuts or traps, but also anomalies, both physical and space-time. Each level has a different size, different security levels, and different interactions with the casual visitor. Some levels are home to sustained communities of survivors who began to gather together as they found each other. Other levels are deadly for travelers. Many other levels are even deadly for any kind of life. And there, not even the entities survive, which in other levels are the top of the food chain. Some levels seem more familiar than others. Some look like non-terrestrial landscapes or represent buildings that, without a doubt, were built by other civilizations. Some are too quiet and static, and in them everything seems the same. In others, chaos reigns. And just a few seconds within their walls would be enough to drive you insane. The levels can change over time or even cease to exist. When this happens, another space will replace the previous level. Each level is identified by a number, but keep in mind that this number doesn't represent anything special about the level. There is no way to go through the levels in a predetermined order. The networks of connections are as mysterious as the levels themselves. This theory acknowledges the 3 levels from the previous theory. He calls level 0 the vestibule, the habitable zone. Level 2 appears as a dream of pipes. It is assumed that there are 6 other main levels and that they are more frequently repeated among the wanderers. Level 3 is the electric station, level 4 the abandoned office, level 5 the hotel, and level 6 the terrible lights out. But they lack enough distinctive qualities to be labeled with their own number. Many sublevels maintain their main level's theme but with a new twist. Anomalous levels are mysterious in nature, they don't have a specific number, and the records about them are faulty or incomplete. This means that they have been mentioned at some point but that information hasn't been corroborated by anyone else. They are referred to by symbols, exaggerated numerical values, or their most distinctive characteristic. While they aren't necessarily more dangerous, these places generally ignore the rules. Of the normal levels, each level has a classification that determines the difficulty of survival in that level. 0 means safe, 5 means most dangerous. However, some levels subvert this, like level 611, which has an alternative classification of hunting zones. Entities are the main inhabitants, and life in the Backrooms, aside from the wanderers, they can range from docile to highly dangerous. And one should have a general knowledge of the most common entities to ensure their safety while wandering through the Backrooms. But beyond levels and creatures, I imagine what you're wondering. Is there a way to find a door to the Backrooms? Are there clues that can help us find this key place? But before talking about that, this is a good moment in the story for us to get to know one of the people who has contributed the most. For the generation of the Backrooms myths, we're talking about Kane Parsons. On January 7, 2022, interest in the Backrooms lore was boosted when a YouTube user named Kane Pixels Parsons uploaded a viral short video about a camera operator who finds himself trapped in level 0. The short film was titled The Backrooms Fan Footage. Today, it has over 40 million views and its director was 16 years old when it premiered. The short is presented as a 1996 recording of a young cameraman who accidentally ends up in the place, fleeing entities and entering new levels. The film uses live-action footage and 3D renderings from Blender, as well as other techniques to create effects, stable camera movement, and a video home system filter. Categorized by some as analog horror, the short film received multiple praises. Someone even mentioned it as the scariest video on the internet. Parsons also uploaded 9 more Backrooms-related videos, in non-chronological order: The Third Test, First Contact, Missing Persons, Informative Video, Autopsy Report, Motion Detected, Prototype, Traps, Report, and the newest one, Presentation. These videos revolve around the ACNC Foundation, which is trying to reach the backrooms to solve all current and future residential and storage needs, with an informative video referencing the location, such as Project KB31. Many claim that while the Slender Man myth made it to the screens with a movie that, in most cases, disappointed the followers of the myth, Parsons not only knows how to represent the backrooms, but his vision of them is widely accepted by the community in general. Considered by many to be a backroom specialist, has he ever said so? I've wanted to do this for as long as I can remember. Seeing these internet mysteries appear and watching people figure them out is something I've always wanted to contribute to. The creator also said on several occasions that sometimes his own creations scared him. Many times, the clips he uses get corrupted and end up creating illusions that are even scarier than what he had planned. As if the backrooms were self-creating, Parsons made another major contribution to the myth's followers. In one of his videos, the artist left a long number as a clue. After hours of research, a fan discovered that the number matched the international standard book number of a book, but not just any book. The Yellow Wallpaper is a short story by the American writer Charlotte Perkins Gilman. It was first published in January 1892 in the New England Magazine. It is considered an important early work of American feminist literature because of its depiction of attitudes toward women's mental and physical health in the 19th century. Told in the first person, the story is a collection of diary entries, written by a woman whose doctor husband rented an old mansion for the summer. Giving up other rooms in the house, the couple moves into the upstairs nursery. As a form of treatment, the husband forbids the woman from working or writing and encourages her to eat well and get plenty of fresh air, so that she can recover from what he calls a temporary nervous depression, a slight hysterical tendency, a common and infamous diagnosis. In Women of that time, the narrator devotes many entries in her diary to describing the wallpaper in the room, its sickly color, its yellow smell, its strange and unsettling pattern, like an endless chain of poisonous mushrooms sprouting and sprouting in endless convolutions. She also becomes obsessed with the way it leaves yellow stains on the skin and clothes of anyone who touches it. She claims that the longer one stays in the bedroom, the more the wallpaper seems to mutate, especially in the moonlight. Soon, the woman begins to see a figure in the pattern and comes to believe that a woman is crawling on all fours behind the wallpaper. How does it all end? That I'll let you find out for yourselves. The important thing is that many people started to compare the yellowed wallpaper described in the story with the one that appears in the photo that gave rise to the myth. And what if that horror story, which is considered a gem of Gothic literature and was admired by Lovecraft himself, is actually the early testimony of a door to the backrooms manifesting? Opinions differ, though Kate Pixels remains an icon in the backrooms world. Another notable video for their mythology, released even earlier, became a cult classic for many. On October 26, 2019, the YouTube user Ivan Royalty released a video called Into the Backrooms. It also has its own continuity, separate from the general backrooms lore. And it tells the story of police officer James Richmond, who responds to a request for a welfare check of a man who mentions that his wife has disappeared. Rich discovers an open door in the man's residence and ends up falling through a glitch in level 0. The video was developed through modifications to Grand Theft Auto. Ivan Royalty and Kane Pixels share a very similar vision. Regarding why the backrooms are so appealing to them, there is a very representative nostalgia of modern times in the backrooms. Following this, the backrooms would gain immense popularity, because in some way, they are the snapshot of a past that no longer exists, that many never got to fully experience, but were able to brush with their senses, the backrooms. Nostalgia for a life you never lived. The director also says that in his view, many people grew up. During the unusual 2000s transition, things from the past stayed the same, with no upkeep or renewal. It's no coincidence, for example, that some Backrooms levels are set in video rental stores or arcades. Things newer generations never really experienced, and it represents a specific moment in culture, a moment when many of the things that now shape popular imagination would be defined. So are the Backrooms then, a vast visual library of what no longer is, but never really goes away? Could modern times move so fast that the past couldn't be erased, so a backup formed? Of long, endless stretches of hallways, and beyond their description, what was the genesis of the Backrooms? Have they always been with humanity, or did something create them? These are the questions that keep those who constantly gather information on the subject most active. And now, we'll see the conclusions they reached. However, before that, let's move on to the other important topic that concerns us today. How do you enter the Backrooms? Well, take note because it's that simple. How not to clip? Yes, that's exactly what I just said, not to clip. And what do I mean when I say not to clip? Well, let me tell you. No clip is a term commonly used in video games. In Doom 2, for example, you could use the no clip cheat, but what does this mean? To understand this, you need to know that in video game programming, objects move absolutely, unless their space is limited. For example, by pointing out a wall to them. In the game Doom, the no-clip cheat allowed our player to go through walls and thus move through the levels, as if they were invisible, or as if they were moving on another plane. As an interesting fact, if you use the no-clip cheat in Doom against the final boss, you would find the disembodied head of the game's director, John Romero. Shooting the head was the way to win. To enter the Backrooms, you have to no-clip out of reality. There's no guaranteed method to achieve this, since it happens inconsistently. However, there are some tips to increase your chances of entering the Backrooms. One of the methods is to find a glitch. Reality, just like in the movie Matrix, errors in reality were perceived through déjà vu. Those seeking glitches to reach the Backrooms must primarily trust their instincts. And that's because glitches usually inhabit that kind of place. They typically make us feel fear, danger, or strangeness. Those typical places that give us goosebumps. Once we find one of these places, we need to look for walls that are a shade darker than usual, or that don't seem to cast a shadow. Doors that didn't exist before and seem out of place, or damaged objects, usually old ones. Having an interaction with such a wall, door, or object can take us in an instant to a backroom. Some people can reach the Backrooms accidentally on their first try, while others may take hundreds or even thousands of attempts. Supposedly, no one has officially made it out of the Backrooms. The information about them is uploaded by people who somehow managed to contact those who made it inside, or they belong to groups that study the phenomenon. Some time ago, as we already mentioned, some say they've been in the Backrooms in dreams, others remember them from another life. Many are prepared with their supplies, and every day they try to enter that other side. Whether it's because of a suicidal instinct, or because they finally want to uncover the mysteries hidden in those corners. Which brings us back to the question we left open just a few minutes ago. How were the Backrooms formed? Enthusiasts of this creepypasta have developed several theories. Some say that the Backrooms are an alternate reality known as shattered reality. Created during the Big Bang, it coexists with our universe. Others say that it's a simulation that some people are taken to without knowing it. Another theory, with more religious overtones, says that the Backrooms are hell itself, and another one suggests that they're a collective lucid dream. For Kane, pixels, poorly recorded Backrooms, are attractive to those with blurry memories of the late 90s and early 2000s say. This means that this network of tunnels would be nothing more than a projection of fragmented memories. A universal database that we can access due to a system glitch. For others, the Backrooms are something like the stitching of reality, the hem that allows all the parts to stay connected. No matter what explanation we believe, something still keeps us up at night. It keeps the most curious and many professionals awake, because these images hold such power over us. Many psychologists and sociologists have studied the backrooms phenomenon. Why does looking at these hallways create such addiction and a feeling of shared experience among most people who see them? The explanation for this lies in the concept of liminality, from the Latin limes, meaning limit or border. Liminality is a concept introduced in Arnold van Gennep's book, Rites of Passage. It describes the openness and ambiguity found in a movement's intermediate phase. It is existing in a threshold between what has passed and what is yet to come. It is therefore the moment that allows the transition between one condition and the other. Illness, adolescence, sleep-wake state, or brief madness. They are liminal states just as journeys are, whether for pleasure or out of necessity. And as some may have guessed, there can also be liminal places, like an airport or a prison. But also the famous hallways. Places that are meant to be passed through, places usually without windows, that only exist to connect one destination to another. Places we go through our whole lives without stopping. These places are imprinted in our brains in a very particular way, so when we see them represented statically in a photo, we feel like we recognize them. But it's hard for us to figure out from where, since it would be a non-place. Does this perhaps explain the level of fanaticism that the backrooms have sparked in recent years, or is there something more? One way or another, the backrooms became one of the main examples of an urban legend. Created by a huge online community, they are a collaborative construction that has far surpassed their predecessors. Just like the SCP Foundation, the backrooms are an idea that captivated both the youngest and those who have been surfing the internet for decades. The feeling that is replicated is that of something that in some way envelops us all. However, just like with the universe of cosmic horror, the backrooms are not a cursed place that we can defeat. Appealing to our will or knowledge, the backroom offers no chance of salvation. It's knowing there's more than our ordinary reality. But at the same time, it's the confirmation that what's on the other side is unfathomable and without any specific purpose. Or at least that's how it seems. What about the photo that sparked the backrooms discussion and started this story? Many have tried to trace its origin, however, one of the latest conclusions says that it could actually have been created by a simulation system. Someone has even suggested then that the photo was put there by a machine on purpose, as a kind of decoy, so that a group of humans would bring to life this whole madness of interconnected tunnels. The rest is easy to figure out. Humans, prisoners of curiosity, fell into the trap, and now it's too late for anything. The backrooms have arrived. They're here to stay. That's all for today. Hope you found it interesting. If you made it this far, please, I invite you to leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on notifications. Also, I invite you to leave your comments if we go over the 3,000 comment limit. In this video, we're going to make a second part about the backrooms, going into more detail about the creatures that supposedly inhabit these places. There's much more to discuss on this topic. It's a very big subject, so I invite you to leave your comment down below. I'll leave a couple of videos here for you to keep binge watching. Before I finish, I want to thank all the channel members beside me, as none of this would be possible without them. Thank you very much for your contribution to this channel. Thanks to these people, we can create such extensive documentaries that require significant research. A lot of work from both the scriptwriter and the editor. And also from me and from the whole team that makes up this channel, and the other channel as well. Thanks to you, we can keep moving forward with this content. We're very grateful. If you want to join, you have the button down here. And with just $1 a month, you help us a lot so we can keep making this video, which are usually demonetized or hidden from recommendations by YouTube. Thank you to everyone who supports this channel each month. And I also want to say that if you want to leave suggestion for a possible case, a possible video, I invite you to leave your comment down below. With nothing more to say, I say goodbye. My name is Magnus Mephisto, and we'll surely see each other in the next video. Goodbye.